He's now qualified himself for a Supermax deal by virtue of being named third-team All-NBA on the heels of being named Defensive Player of the Year last year. Those are the two qualifiers and kickers. He's likely to be named Defensive Player of the Year this year, too, which would have qualified him as well, back-to-back Defensive Players of the Year. So the question is, Spence, will the Jazz do it or should the Jazz do it? And those are two different questions, or maybe they're the same question. You tell me.
It's a lot of money.
Oh.
It is a lot of money. And what the Wizards have done with John Wall has made them pretty much irrelevant for the next 3 or 4 years. Steph has received a Supermax, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, John Wall, and now Damian is in line to receive his, as is Anthony Davis, and Giannis can get one as well. And here's the thing, so can Kemba Walker. So, Jazz fans, if you're dreaming about Kemba Walker, you might want to look in a different direction, unless Charlotte wants to move away from Kemba, which I think is tough to do if you're them. And I think it's tough to not give Rudy the Supermax if you're the Jazz. That is a lot of money, okay? But Rudy is such a unique player and is so hard to find, especially for a market like we have here. You're going to find a guy like that in the draft, and he's going to become arguably a top 3 center in the NBA, the best defensive player in the NBA. And when you look at his screen assists, one of the elite screen setters in the NBA, a lot of the spacing the Jazz can get offensively is because of Rudy Gobert screens and dives to the basket. So when I first saw the number, I went, oh, man. And then you sit back and think about it. It's like if the alternative is losing him, then you got to pay it. But here's the other thing, and I can tell you I've been texting with somebody who is in the know on this. The Jazz will go to Rudy and see if he'll not give a Tom Brady hometown discount, but see if Rudy would be more open to offer a little bit more roster flexibility. And the pitch is simple. Like, if you want to win, we need flexibility.
We'll give you the max, but not the supermax, or somewhere between the max and the supermax.
Now, the question is does Rudy have it in him? Because a lot of these NBA guys, man, a lot of these players, they simply will go in and say, look, I'm eligible for the max, so there's no negotiation. Either you give it to me or I'm walking. Rudy doesn't seem like that type of guy, but Rudy also likes to post a lot of Instagram photos shirtless while he's boxing. Rudy likes himself some Rudy. You know what I mean? Like, Rudy likes himself some Rudy. He sent out a picture with he and Rihanna last week. Like, Rudy's feeling himself a little bit, man. Like, Defensive Player of the Year, is making a ton of money. Like, I don't know what Rudy's mindset would be. He certainly would be completely within his rights to walk in to Dennis and Justin and David Morway and say, I'm eligible for this. Either you pay me or I'm gone. But I think the Jazz will ask him to look a little bit at a more flexible situation so they have some more roster flexibility to surround Rudy and Donovan with better players. But with the way the Jazz have set their books up, you know, Donovan's still on his rookie contract. So some very friendly contracts with Royce O'Neal, George Yang, and things like that. They will be able to be a little bit flexible, but if you give Rudy the Supermax, because at some point I would have to imagine Donovan will be eligible for his own Supermax. I think he's going to be an All-NBA guy. He had a few votes this year. I think he had 4 votes for third team. If the Jazz continue to win and Donovan continues to evolve, my guess is he'll be eligible too. And having 2 Supermax guys, it's a lot of money on your books, and you better be sure that those are the 2 guys to carry you for the next 10 years.
Won't be Supermax guy, I can't imagine, on this next round of contracts, though. Do you think? In 2 years?
He could. I mean, 4 votes for third team this year. If the Jazz win at a high clip and Donovan takes a couple of steps up, he could be third team All-NBA.
That's true. That's true. We'll see. Got to do it in back-to-back years, though. But you figure if you do it in 1 year, unless you're hurt.
But here's the other thing that I should mention. You have to be in the league seven years.
That's true, yeah.
So it's not like Rudy's eligible next year. He'll be eligible when his next contract is up.
When his contract's up, right.
And then Donovan will have to wait until he's been in the league 7 years. So maybe that offsets a little bit.
See what happens. I know what you're saying, and it goes back to that whole you can't afford to let Rudy Gobert walk because this is not a market that attracts, franchise players that decide they want to pull up stakes wherever they are and come here.
Right.
And he's homegrown, and you drafted him, and he's tied to this community. But as much as he does for you and helps solidify your identity defensively, he's not an offensive threat. I mean, he's a rim runner who gets a lot of stickbacks and lobs, but he's not Marc Gasol. He's not Joel Embiid. He's not Nikola Jokic. He's not Boogie Cousins. These are all guys that can step out and give you an array of offensive moves or knock down open jump shots from the perimeter. Joel Embiid's a pretty good defender.
Sure.
Nikola Jokic is coming as a defender, but Rudy is a defender who's got some offensive game. And that's a lot of money to pay a guy that, while he is elite at that one thing, he's really kind of a one-sided player.
His offensive impact can't be measured with things that you would measure a Joel Embiid offensive game with. It's more screen setting. It's diving to the rim. It's making sure. I mean, the spacing that the Jazz do get with some corner threes that are open, it's because that you do have to stay honest to Rudy on his rolls and his dives. Now, there are so many times where it's like I told you when they played Houston, Mike D'Antoni schemes his defense and then looks at Quinn Snyder and says, "Throw it to your guy, throw it to Rudy." Throw it to him, okay? Let's see if he has any post moves. Like, it was almost insulting how much D'Antoni dared Quinn to drop a scheme to end an offensive possession with Rudy Gobert with the ball on the block. Because teams know Rudy Gobert with the ball on the block is not a threat. Rudy Gobert setting screens up top and diving to the rim is a threat. But that's why D'Antoni schemed the way he did. Like, okay, we're going to take away your threes, we're going to take away Donovan, and we're going to allow you the opportunity to throw the ball to your center on the block because we don't think he can do anything with it. Ultimately, I still think you have to give him the money, though.